I call the Kitty Hawk Town Council to order this Monday, September 16, 2019, at Kitty Hawk Town Hall at 6 p.m. Welcome to everyone that's present and those that will look at us later. Would you join us for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next is a call for approval of the agenda, but I want to remove 6D. It's an ordinance dealing with abandoned nuisance and junk vehicles. I have some questions on that. Do I hear a motion to approve as amended?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended, removing 6D, Mr. Mayor.
Does it have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Next, we have a presentation to the police department. And who's going to do that? Mark.
Mr. Tillett?
Cool. Come on up.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for having me up here tonight, and I would like to thank you all for all your help with this event that we just had, first weekend in May 2019. It was a really awesome event, and without the help of all you guys, it wouldn't be possible. I just want to thank you all for helping us with this. I'd like to present this to the police department. I wanted to thank you for all the help you did for this event, and with the crews from Kitty Hawk and Nags Head, it worked perfect. Everybody was happy, and the people that came in, they were really impressed with all of the support from the community, and especially the police department. That's been awesome. I want to thank you again. I appreciate the shot. Thank you all again. We're looking forward.
I appreciate all that, but the folks that'll watch this later have no clue what you're talking about. So what's the event that you were presenting for?
Okay, what we were doing, we had the first annual OBS Riding Custom Festival that we put on this year to help two children charities, which is the Children Youth Partnership and the Dare County Toy Run. And we did it first weekend in May, had it at the event site in Nags Head, and we had people from all over the country plus Canada come in to support this event. We filled up 5 hotels and 2 motels. First year event, it was really beyond our expectations on what was going on, and we're going to do it again next year, 2020. It'll be May 1st and 2nd. We've already filled up 1 hotel and a half. They've already registered for the event. We had between 350 400 cars come in, and with 2 people to a car plus spectators and all, we filled the beach up. I don't know if any of y'all saw the cars running around the area that weekend, but everybody was really pleased. The restaurants, hotels, and a lot of these people that came was their first time ever come to the Outer Banks. 90% of them, they had never been here before. So they're looking to make it bigger and better next year, hopefully double it next year.
All right, good. And now people know what it was.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have public comment. Anybody signed up?
Mr. Bascat?
I'm back. Mayor Perry, town council members, Mr. Stewart and Mr. Midget. First of all, I want to thank everybody, Mr. Stewart and Mr. Midget and his staff for implementing the successfully stormwater drainage system that was constructed on both the east and west side of the bypass in the Rabbit Hollow area. By the way, I'm Kurt Bascat, I'm sorry. I reside at 3605 Rabbit Hollow, right off of West Takeway. It helped our area very immensely by this system being in place and you all pumping and myself and some of the other neighbors in that area. We got pumps ourselves and pumped 24 hours straight, trying to keep up with you guys to try to get the water levels, the standing water ponded in the, I call it the Kitty Dunes pond area behind the west side of the bypass. Pumped for 24 hours until Mr. Midget said they were going to stop their operation, so we stopped as well. Unfortunately, we still have some standing water in the back. We don't mind standing water as long as it's within control levels in the back of the pond, but some of it's still above some of the septic fields we have. So there is a little bit of an odor right now. We're trying to put up with that for the time being. For those of you who are not familiar, I hope you all are, but if you're not, there was a study done a number of years ago in which they looked at all the drain, stormwater, and ocean overflow problems in Kitty Hawk. And engineer came up with several plans for all the areas, both the west end and the east, north-south ends of the island. And all of the plans were, I believe I'm correct, all the plans were implemented, monies obtained, and the projects constructed, except for the Kitty Dunes Pond area. And the reason for that was that at that particular time, the plan that the engineer came up was just too costly. Now the situation has changed. You have this system in place. In fact, I understand you've even expanded it, putting culverts underneath both the bypass and also under West Tateway connecting the south end ditches. That just leaves us. And the only thing I'm asking tonight is that since we still have a problem and we're still part of the Kitty Hawk's retention basin in that area, we're part of your stormwater drainage system. Anything that, anytime the streets flood up, the ditches flow over, some of that water starts coming back to our pond. In fact, in this most recent occasion, water across Tateway, once it got up above the street level, started flowing over the adjacent property into the pond area. So that area does serve as a little bit of the retention area in your retention drainage systems. One thing we're asking now is let's go back and revisit the plan for that area. I think now that the elaborate plan that was drawn up is no longer even practical, not necessary. All we need is a connection between the pond and the drainage areas along either 158 or West Tateway. I've discussed this with the local property area owners in that area. All of them would be in favor of that except for one. I think the mayor knows who that is, or Mr. Stewart one. I've been told you all know about it. And all it would retain is a connection, either, I think a pipe, just a simple pipe going for, we're not asking for the pond to be drained down. We're asking it to be so that when you do have to pump out in these unusual situations, it can be lowered down to a level that it's not on top of people's septic fields. Pond back there would be great. We just don't need the septic part of it. And I think that can be done very cheaply. So I'm just asking the council, get your engineer or whatever and restudy that particular system to see if there's not a very simplified way of getting that work done.
We can do that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. That's all I ask.
Right. What I want you to do is, there is one property owner there that would be a loggerhead. We need to know what the problem is. And if it's a simple thing of putting in just a culvert in an area there that would do what we did with the other culverts, then council needs to consider that.
Okay.
All right. Any more?
That is the only one that has signed up.
Anyone else? We got a lot of people here. Anyone else want to speak? Please, come forward.
My name's Christine Lewis. I'm on 3620 Poseidon Street, so I'm on East Tate Way, and just came from having my septic system pumped, and the gentleman looked at me and he said, it's all rainwater. There was no solids in it. So we're having the same problem on the east side of the highway between Tate Way and White. I just want to reemphasize that because this is a climate change issue. It's a water table issue. It's something that just needs to be addressed so that we don't have the continuing problems of standing water and septic issues.
Okay. I'll get with Willie on that. We did change a sump over there, so I don't quite know.
That's 2 houses south of ours, across an empty lot. And I know that was pumping the whole time, and there's still standing water underneath that house.
Well, there is a limit of what DNR let us do, and he reached that. And in fact, we came back and they let us go a second time, but there is a limit to what they'll let us do. So I'll get with him and we'll look at that and see if there's anything else that can be done there. But there is a certain point at which DNR, we can't pump individual lots. It's just that simple.
And we understand that. It's just the water level was rising up and our septic was, in question. And I emailed Mr. Stewart about this as well, just to make sure that they were aware that it was a concern to us.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Please, come up.
Hi, I'm Craig Anthony with Patriots Roofing. Thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak. So we had a couple of minor issues with some of the gated communities we were going into. They would allow us to help, and the residents that were outside those, we had difficulties getting to. We would make a neighbor aware of, we're going to be doing roof next door to them. I guess there's a city ordinance or a policy that has a non-solicitation, so when we would stop by to tell them we're going to be doing work next door, if you have any problems, nails in the street, too much noise, the guys did anything, here's our business card, give us a call. On occasion, we would get the call right back to say, hey, this is a non-solicitation area. I tell you that quickly just to let you know that for us, I don't need to tell you that we have more business than we can shake a stick at. We're not in no short supply of that. But a more important reason, which I just wanted to add, Lana, while we're here, is that real quickly, about 20 years ago, I left the roofing industry to continue home building and land development. When I got back, we had about 40, maybe 50 times the amount of roofers that were there when I left. And not all of them were quality contractors, we'll leave it at that. So the industry had got a tainted name. What we did to circumvent that was we started doing, we don't take any money until the job's finished. That wasn't enough. So then we moved on to, we'll do all of our inspections for free. Today we have about 10% of who we actually do inspections for. It doesn't cost us $25 to print a report, give them the information, and whether they sign or don't sign, can or can't. But about 9 out of 10 customers aren't customers. But we do get to give them good advice.
Okay. Public comment's not an advertisement for your company, okay?
So I apologize, I did
All
not
right,
mean to do that.
so if I understand it, you were soliciting and somebody told you to stop? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, sir, we actually stopped by a house next door, and this is afterwards. We stopped by a house next door. The neighbor felt like we were soliciting. They simply stopped to let them know we were doing work here. If they have any issues, we're done. We have no need, and I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that before I ended with my comment, was that we're part of the community. We're not here to solicit. I wanted to make sure that was crystal clear. And I certainly did not mean to lead off with this is what we're doing. The reason I showed up was just to let everyone know that we offer a service. It's not a cost service.
Okay, all right, well, let's shut this off here as far as that kind of comment, but basically, the town does have an ordinance that if someone is soliciting a business in the drive lane, I think I'm right on that, in other words, a roadway, then that's not allowed. If I understand it correctly, you pull up into a driveway and you talk to somebody, that is not controlled by the town, is that correct?
Private property.
All right, so if you go up into somebody's driveway and you offer a service or something, then as far as I can tell, that's between you and whoever you offer the service to. If you're doing it from the roadway, then that's against our code.
Okay.
All
And
right.
I only tried to give you the information to let you know that we wanted to make sure we weren't, because it's not a solicitation, we get the phone call, we don't have to solicit.
Okay.
Ours is more of a,
All right, well, let's shut you down for now.
thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to advertise? Anyone want to speak about any subject? All right. A lot of folks were just sitting there. All right, let the record show no one else came forward. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda with 6D removed?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with 6D removed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right. Now I'm going to open with 6D, and I have some questions. I think the reason I did this, Casey, was because you're the lawyer, and you obviously rewrote this junk nuisance vehicle ordinance. And over on, what confused me was there was a lot of rewrite, and sometimes, for example, Section 22, TAC 53, 22, TAC 55 says deleted. And then I went over to further parts of this, and it said a lot of things were deleted but moved. So were 2253 and 2255 deleted and moved, or just deleted?
All right. 2253. In 2019, that's where we're at, Mayor.
So it's just deleted?
Deleted,
That
correct.
was not moved?
No.
All right,
No.
and the same thing then would be with 55?
Correct.
All right, so in the future, what I'm going to ask of Andy and staff is give council, we need this copy that's marked up, so we know what you did. And then give us a clean copy that's not marked up.
Makes sense.
So, you know, when I go over here and I see all this stuff in the lines, I don't get confused.
Absolutely. Makes sense.
This one should have had the mark, this should have been deleted on this original,
Right.
and so it's confusing.
And that's all
It
I'm
is.
asking.
Yeah, we need to get you one
Anyone
copy.
else?
I agree.
You agree with that?
Yes.
All right, a clean copy would help us clean up what we're looking at. All right, good enough. Took care of. Now we have new business, and we have basically a master plan that the Volunteer Recreation Committee has revised. And I was kind of surprised at how long it had been since it had been last visited. Time passes you by, I guess. The Volunteer Recreation Committee does a real good job, and they've done a good job here. And basically, there's a couple of things that I want to put on the record so that future councils, some of the things that they were asking to have looked at, have been looked at, or may not be possible. Now, we can see this, and I don't know how many of our constituents would actually read the Kitty Hawk Recreation Master Plan, but a future council might be asked to do some of these things and not know the history. So I want to point those out and get them on the record, and that's really all I'm doing here. So let's go over, the first thing I'll go to is 1.5, in the last sentence, and it's according to state standards, and this is for information, the recreation needs of the town are met by recreation opportunities within the county and certainly within the town. We're very fortunate that Dare County has a lot of different parks and recreation opportunities, not even counting ocean and sound. So we actually exceed what the state would ask a town or county to have. But we need a master plan, so if we're looking to do some additional parks or accesses or something, then this helps us get grant money. So this plan is important, and the work they've done is important. Then the next thing I would go to, let me get over to it, is it's on page 11. And it has its recreation facilities midterm. And it's talking about under Roman numeral VI, coordinate with North Carolina Department of Transportation, NCDOT, for construction of connecting bike paths from Windgrass Circle to the boundary with Kill Devil Hills on Bay Drive. Now, the reason that's important to bring up for corporate knowledge of future councils is that we looked at that, hard, extensive. There was a plan, there was an engineered plan. There were two things that were just almost impossible to overcome, and one of them was the topography. When you go to the west side of that drive, it drops straight down. So that was one problem. The engineer went back and said, well, if we cross the road, we put it on the other side, and then we cross the road back to tie up, council said, we're crossing a road twice for a multi-use path. That doesn't make any sense. And then the third thing was when the people that live along that Bay Drive, the property owners, got wind that we were looking at trying to do that, the fight become real. I mean, they went to media and every avenue available to them to put a stop to it. Some of them actually don't have any driveway except for what they're using on the right-of-way. They've got concrete pads and stuff. So topography, crossing the road, it just became unfeasible to put that there. Lastly, that is not a well-traveled or a heavily traveled road, so council dropped it. There's a plan out there. If they want to look at it in the future, that's just the reality, all right? And I want that basically on the record, doing the best you can do, Lynn. All right. Then the last thing, over on 3.1.4, page 12, special events, goals, short term. Plan and execute Heritage Day annually when funding is available. Where are you going to hold it? The place that we've held it before, had a meeting with the owner of that property, and he actually owns almost 90% of that, I think it's Woods Estate, what they call it. It's undeveloped, but it's all platted. And he owns that, plus the promenade, and he is actually in planning to do something with all of that. So that's not going to be available. And where else you would hold a Heritage Day in Kitty Hawk that's big enough, has all the venue space and those sort of things, it doesn't exist today. So I just wanted to point out that that's a nice thing. It would be wonderful if you could have it, because I know people enjoyed it. But if you're thinking, or anybody in the future is thinking that it'll be at the promenade, it probably won't. I would expect, not this council, but I do expect future councils to be putting some kind of plan together as far as what that man wants, because he's actively pursuing something. He didn't know what it was. He's hired somebody to look at it and give him best guesstimates, okay? All right, so with that said, do you want to approve the plan or make any adjustments to it? That's the question. If you're satisfied with the plan, make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the Kitty Hawk Recreation Master Plan fiscal year 2019-20 as presented.
I second.
Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Okay, Andy, are you going to do the police station?
Yeah, I just got a quick PowerPoint on
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Agenda item number 8B The council at the last town council meeting requested me to go back and look at some funding options for a new police station and possible fire/EMS substation out on US 158. So this is the presentation that I'll sort of be giving you today. This evening, the town staff has taken a look at different options. I was under the impression at the last meeting, towards some of the comments, that financing through a bank or acquiring debt service was not something the council was desirous of. So we basically have one proposal to show you this evening of some ideas that we have. But just because of a recap, of course, this is our existing police department station after Hurricane Michael. And you can see there the restroom facilities that we have. It's just an older building, and then it's also not located on the highest ground, and it's located at one of the lowest spots, I think, probably in the village. So it's just not a very good place to have a police station when you have an emergency event from soundside flooding or a heavy rain event. So the town, as we know, the town had owned 2 properties up in the north side of town by the new urgent care facility. That's where the urgent care facility sits now. They needed those lots to build that facility there. So the developer traded us 4 lots for the 2 lots further north. So these lots are a little bit further south, but as you can see, the architect has provided a site plan for the proposed police station and EMS station / fire department substation that would be positioned on these 4 lots. And we wanted to make sure, as you recall last month, that the buildings would fit on the properties that you see here that have been highlighted there in the teal. So that's kind of where we're at. So now we're looking at the funding side of things. Of course, we need funding in order to make these things happen. We also have Dare County EMS that's looking to possibly locate a EMS station in this area. So it was an opportunity we felt from the town staff side that we could work with. Our fire department needs a substation, a smaller station during our storm events, because we need a place to put our fire truck, because our fire station also is located in the village, and it also floods when we have soundside flooding. So we're trying to build a little facility where we can get away from the flooding and prepare ourselves from the future. So the EMS will also wanted to participate in this study, and you'll see here in my funding proposal that we would propose to the county to start possibly looking for funds to make this a reality. So they're part of that equation too, but the county can't be on board unless the town is committed and has some sort of timeline, because just like our council, they go through a capital improvements program and they have to schedule in the funds accordingly. So this will help the town if the council decides to kind of consider this funding option. This will help the town be able to get back with the county and kind of give them a time frame as to what the town's plans are as far as funding this project. So the site plan shows about a 7,000 square foot police department building. The construction cost was about $1.6 million, and a 2,200 square foot fire and EMS substation, kind of a shared little facility, and that was about $700,000. The total cost of the project is about $2.6 million, which includes the construction cost, that includes the site work, that includes the architectural fees, and that excuse me, also includes your IT needed to wire the building and your furnishings of 2 new buildings. So that was the budget number. About $2.6 million is what the town needs to complete the project. As I said at the beginning, council gave direction to staff to present some funding options. The finance department has proposed a funding option utilizing the town's emergency reserve fund as a possible funding source. The town currently have an unrestricted fund balance, which the balance is around $1.5 million, and that serves as sort of our fund where if we happen to overspend or we have an unexpected event such as a hurricane, it's not reimbursed by FEMA, then the town would need to, and the expense is over what we budgeted, then we would use those funds in the unrestricted to keep the town flowing. The emergency reserve, however, was set aside by the council and can only be spent by the town council through a vote. Basically, the town council would have to vote to utilize these funds. So that sort of serves as the town's financial cushion. And the number $3.5 million, I have no idea where that number came from, other than it just probably sounded like a good number a healthy number to use to set aside for the town as far as keep the money aside in the bank account. So this fund balance is currently 65% of the yearly operating expenditures, so the money the town has set aside would cover about 65% of the town's operating expenditures. If the town was to not collect another dime tomorrow, we could operate basically a little bit more than 7 months. The local government commission sends letters to municipalities if your general fund falls below 8%. So we have a big cushion there in our fund balance, so we're pretty healthy financially. So what the town decided to do, instead of go to a bank, or town staff is proposing, instead of go to a bank and pay interest and financing fees, this money basically just sits in our bank account, the $3.5 million, and it draws very little interest. I mean, we do try to capture as much interest on that $3.5 million as we can. However, in government, you have to put your money in really secure investments that are all approved by the state. You can't just go out and invest with stock market and everything else. So we don't really receive a lot of interest. So instead of paying 3.5% interest to a bank to finance this project, what the town staff is proposing is to borrow about $1.5 million out of this $3.5 million that's been really just sitting in that account for the past however long the ordinance has been in place, drawing very little interest. So what the proposal would be to utilize these funds, about $1.5 million of these funds that have been set aside to fund this police department building and repay the funds back over a period of about 10 years. And I'll show you, this is sort of the schedule that you had attached in your agenda to kind of give you an idea of the funds that the town would need. We need about $2.6 million on this first little section here. As you know, the town has been setting aside funds for the police department, for a new police department building for the past 2 years. What will happen at the end of this fiscal year is about $325,000 set aside. Next year we budget another $200,000, and then in 2020, 21, 22, we would budget another $200,000 out of operating, and then we would take money from that emergency reserve, the $1.5 million out of $3.5 million reserve that I'll just discuss. We would take that to fund the remainder of the project. And then if the county was to participate, that would probably push forward that little fire substation because they're going to pay their fair share of the cost. We anticipate them needing more room from that station than our fire department would need for a substation. So that cost to them would be approximately $400,000 for the total funding amount of $2.6 million. Now it's important that the county hasn't committed any funds to this project. They just are interested in the planning side of it. And if the town council has a time frame in mind, then the town could get back with the county and say, if you would like to participate in this project, and would you be willing to participate in the cost share? So the construction schedule that I put together here in the middle section, we would look at the design and bid the project in 2021. Estimated design costs are around $250,000, probably a little bit less than that, but that's just I budgeted on the high side to make sure that we had enough in our budget to cover the actual construction costs and the designs. The actual construction of both the police department and a fire and EMS station would be about $2.3 million, and furnishings of $75,000 gives you that total cost of $2.6 million. If you look down at the bottom, this is what shows back the repayment schedule to the emergency reserve that the town has set aside. Basically, we would borrow the money in 2022, 23, $1.5 million. And then we would continue to pay back $200,000 until 2029, 2030, until that fund is made whole again and it's back at $3.5 million. So obviously, if we have any money that's left over, in years past, we've been under budget, so we've had some additional funds that we could actually use to repay that emergency reserve back quicker. This was just kind of a general roadmap of we can continue to operate on a year-to-year basis and pay back some funds as we go back to that emergency reserve. So you're sort of borrowing money from yourself, I guess you could say. The town would still have a $2 million emergency reserve, which I feel comfortable that is still a really healthy number. Obviously, the $3.5 million sounds a little bit better, but I don't think it's going to take anything away from the financial health of the town by utilizing the monies that have been set aside by the emergency reserve. So our proposal is to fund this project this way. That's about the only way that I see that we'll be able to fund the project. And if we have to set aside money, obviously that project then would probably take us about 10 years in order to save the money each year. If we could put away $200,000 each year, it'd take about 10 years to save the money in order to complete the project. And if construction costs go up, we may be in the next 10 years, which they will, then we may need, and we can't invest our money fast enough to keep up with inflation. So I think it may be even longer. So that's really the only plan that's available. I think it's a really good plan, to be honest with you, and we just wanted to present this to the town council, and I'll turn it back over to the mayor, and I'll stand for any questions.
A couple of points. I was here when the 3.5 was set aside. It was done, first off, it was a percentage of the budget at that particular time. It was a little bit lower budget. The revenue was a little bit less because it was done during those years when the economy was down. So, but it represented a percentage of about 60 or 70% of at that time. The reason it was set aside in that fashion was because Governor Perdue was in office at the time, and at that time, word came to us that the state government was threatening to say that towns and municipalities were holding back too much money and going to change that equation. We're only required 8%, which is nothing. I mean, that's not enough, and everybody knows that. But that's the reason it happened. That was how it happened, and it's been a comfort to have, given all the storms we have, one thing and another. So that's part of the plan there. Now, Casey, if this council enacts something of this nature, it's not a contract, because we're using existing money to pay off a contract for whatever building construction.
Correct.
But we want future councils to have an obligation to pay that money back to ourselves. Can that be done?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Well, adopting an ordinance, I think, would go a long way. And then we incorporate the payment schedule into the ordinance, but we could also contractually essentially do a promissory note from the town to the town. That is something you can do. You can make a promise to repay yourself. Certainly when you're in the area of being a government entity. I mean, that's a little different from, me being at home and taking $6,000 out of my bank account or something and then making an obligation to pay myself back. We could format it, and contractually we could absolutely bind future councils. And I think the strongest way to do that, however, is going to be to adopt an ordinance. No different than the set aside of 3.5. That was made a requirement. Well, I think we can make it a requirement that we do a repayment in the future based on the whatever repayment schedule may be put forward.
Okay. Well, that's important, because I know one council can't bind another.
Right.
Unless there is some sort of a contract.
Exactly.
And I wanted to know that it could be paid back. Okay, council, your thoughts, please.
Is the language already in place within the ordinance that set the 3.5 aside, that it could be used, could be borrowed by the town for future
It says-
development?
The ordinance says, as I looked at that, and the ordinance says that if it drops below the 3.5 million, the town council has to adopt a plan to bring the balance back up within 24 months. So it doesn't work in this case because
But council can change that language.
Correct.
Anytime we want.
you could change that language. Yes, but I think if there's a way, which you're borrowing money from yourself, but if there's a way to force this that other councils, so you just don't just say we're going to forgive the promise. I don't know if you can even do this, but forgive the promissory note, and we need the money, so let's just forgive the note. That's what we're trying to avoid, I think.
Right.
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 Okay.
So this was just an option of, without having in finance. So I guess from the financing realm of things, then you're committed to pay the bank.
Well, yeah, but we also got, right now we have a bond obligation for beach nourishment. And that ends next year, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then we have to start looking at continuing the MSD, collecting the tax, because renourishment will have to occur. We got the bond issue, and then it got delayed a year because of the construction. The bids were too high. So we're going to be basically a year late trying to renourish at the least, maybe 2 years, depending upon availability, construction costs, things like that. So we're going to need to borrow money for that, I'm sure, to pay our share of what the county also puts in, just like we did this time. So we don't want to disrupt that potential of being able to do that. So this is an option that leaves us that option. That make sense? Okay.
And this, just so I can say one more thing, this could change, you know, it's 2 years out before we even look at starting construction, and if something, the economy tanks, or something happens along the lines, or there's an unexpected event, then I may be back before you saying we need to hold off, but this does give us a little bit more, are we serious about moving forward, or, and we have invested some resources into the site plan, and then we know we need a new police department building eventually, and we know it's not located in the best of areas. I mean, it's still useful, we can still use it, it just does cause problems when we have a flooding event. So just realize it just gives us nothing set in stone, but we've been setting aside monies for the past 2 years, and we continue to do that until 2022, and then at that point.
And let me add, I'm more responsible for pushing this out a couple of years because we're going into a big election next year. It's already a mess. We don't know what's going to happen. So we'll work along this direction, and then if the country comes out okay, unscathed, the economy doesn't go south, then this is something we can do. At what point will you need for council to give you a firm?
Yeah, I'm going to continue to budget, you know, next year's budget will be the year that we'll budget, that we probably need to start looking at the design and the bid 2020, 2021.
Okay, so.
But until then, I'm just going to continue to budget $200,000 a year, as long as, you know, and we make, you know, as long as things stay the same, then I would feel comfortable
All right,
moving
so,
forward with this plan.
so council has the rest of this year to look at it, and we'll address it next year, and we'll have at least one new council member to
That's correct.
help us deal with it. All right, does that work for us?
Yes.
Andy, I've got a question, just thinking ahead a little bit. Furnishings and other expenses, $75,000. Chief, you know where I'm coming from, cameras, security cameras, magnetic door locks for security. I'm involved with that for hospitals and clinics, of the medical offsites. $75,000 is not going very far. So is that included in that number, or is
No.
that included in?
No, I went on the high side of the construction estimates. I went 200,000 more than the engineer said would be the low side of the construction. So I think these are just ballpark numbers right now.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But
Until
those
we,
are just, those furnishings were I kind of, yeah, I knew we were going to need some funds for furniture and things like that, but
I just want to be sure, because that's not a
Yeah.
very big number.
That's not security, no.
well, we give them cameras, but folding chairs, how about that?
Yeah, that works.
Thanks,
Computers,
Andy, I
folding
appreciate
chairs.
it.
And Mayor, in the interim, I
Thank you,
will
Andy.
also research options on, again, how we could contractually
Okay.
put something in place that is
Yeah.
binding. So that way we've got confirmation of that prior to you guys moving
I think
forward
we'd all
with the
feel a
decision.
lot better knowing
Well, it's a
that,
great question, for sure.
I mean, other councils can look at it entirely different.
Correct.
But we want to get that money back for the citizens.
Good job, Andy, thank you.
Thank you, Andy, thank you.
Okay. Next, do we have anything else from you?
no, I don't have anything other than I'll just urge the residents to continue to put out their vegetative debris. The town will probably suspend the chipping services for October because there'll be no need. Our biannual chipping service that we usually provide, so we'll go ahead and include that with the storm debris pickup. Other than that, that's all I have this evening.
Well, while we're on storm debris pickup, I know I was going to wait for me, but let's do it right now. There's a delay in that because we don't yet have FEMA declaring the storm, at least for this kind of thing. So we're kind of in a quandary, all of us, all the towns, the county, in a quandary. If they don't do it, then we're going to have to eat the cost. And we've been holding off, starting to pick up, trying to find out if FEMA's going to pick it up, which will be cheaper for you, or if we're going to have to do it on our own. So that's the reason any delay is happening at the moment. It'll sit there a few more days until we get that figured out, and then something's going to happen. It's just a matter of who pays for it and whether it's a big national paying or us little individuals doing it, okay? All right. Mr. Attorney,
Nothing from me, Mayor?
thank you. Town Council, Tina?
No, sir, nothing?
Wow.
Yes, I'd just like to, I don't know if y'all got up I guess it was Saturday morning, there was a lot of trees down, and I'd like to thank Willie and his crew, the police chief and your crew, and Chief Talley and your crew for getting our roadways clear so that we could get our emergency vehicles in, and you did it in a very quick time for the amount of trees down, and thank you very much.
I think they had some firehouse fever. They wanted to get out into it.
They were up mighty early. I know
Yeah, they
that.
were, yeah. All right, Lynn?
I just wanted to say I'm glad we all made it through without any major problems. Trees are one thing, but at least the police department wasn't flooded out again, and everybody seemed to maintain most of their roofs.
Kitty Hawk is lucky and very blessed that we survived the storm like we did. Town staff, everyone, the mayor going to the meetings, everyone did an awesome, fantastic job. Thank you.
All right, I said enough, so I won't say any more. Public comments. Now that you've heard it, anybody got anything to add? All right, let the record show no one came forward. All right, I motion to go into closed session per North Carolina General Statute 143, Tac 318, period 11, parent A, parent 1, approval of closed session minutes of May 6, 2019, and also North Carolina General Statute 143, Tac 318.11, parent A, parent 6, town manager review. All in, or, does it have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
This will not be anything for public to speak of. We're going to probably approve some minutes, and then the town manager review is not something we discuss. So we're going to chase you all out. Thank you for coming. You can come back if you want, but I don't have anything for you.